we have a privilege of being able to hear from the founder of Regarding Sales, LLC. Her firm focuses on business-to-business sales operating systems that drive growth. Her background is unique, with her master's from UC Davis as a political economist. Please join me in welcoming Liz Heiman with her Myths About Sales. Liz, could you share your screen?
Okay, I am going to try to share my screen. Hang on just a second. Okay, you can see me, you can hear me, you can see my hair is a mess. This is a life story of mine. Okay. So what I want to start with is this. I am so glad I'm not the one that has to choose, because those were great presentations and great business ideas. And wow, you guys are going to go far. So, which makes me even more excited to do what I'm about to do, because there are so many myths about sales. And if you are going to be successful in your business, you have to sell. You have to learn the sales side of your business. And so rather than tell you how to sell, I'm going to talk to you about the myths of selling, because I think that will be more fun. And it will also help you to think about, well, if that's a myth, then what's real and how do I really do this? So I'm Liz Heiman, and my mission is to take the mystery out of sales and to make sales manageable and predictable. And I will tell you that when I talk to founders about their businesses, what they often say, how they describe their sales organization, is chaotic, unmanageable, and unpredictable. And the very first sales myth is that that is not how it has to be. People think that is just what sales is. It is not, and it does not have to be that way. So let's just kind of jump right in, starting talking about, whoops, this is not working. Hang on a second. Two screens always confusing. There we go. Yay. All right. Caring and curiosity, it's not easy. So if anybody told you it's easy, just get out there and do it, they lie. You still have to get out there and do it, but it is not easy. So your job is to learn to listen and to solve problems. So that is the very first sales myth. The second sales myth, and I alluded to this before, is sales is completely unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen. Could close, might not close, who knows? It's not true. There's a process that we go through when we sell, and when we follow that process, we are pretty clear as we're going about whether stuff is going to sell or not. So if you have a business-to-business complex sale, meaning you're selling to a big business with multiple buyers, you have a long sales process, and you're going to have to talk to a lot of people and ask a lot of questions and go through a process. If you just sell to one person, if you're really good at qualifying, at building a good list, understanding your ideal customer, you're going to be pretty good at getting the right people on the phone to sell to them. So it doesn't have to be unpredictable. You can learn what to expect, and you can plan around it, and you can create a plan to achieve that. So the next one is, oh, I hear this all the time. Sales is a numbers game. It's just a numbers game. The more you dial, the more you get. It's just a numbers game. Well, that's not true. It's just simply not true. There are all kinds of things involved in selling, and numbers is a part of it. So you're not going to sell anything if you don't talk to anybody. If you don't do any marketing and you don't do any work, you're not going to sell anything, because if you build it, they will not come. So yes, you have to talk to a certain number of people in order to sell. And you do need to know what your funnel looks like. How many prospects need to go in the top of the funnel to get one out the bottom? But that doesn't mean that I have to make 50 phone calls a day. Doesn't matter who I call, as long as I call 50 people. It matters who you call. It matters what you say. It matters how you say it. It matters if you're talking to the right person. It's not just a numbers game. There's a whole lot involved in selling. So when somebody says it's just a numbers game, dial, dial, dial. No, it's not. Come see me and I'll explain to you how it's not. Okay? So that's a myth, and don't believe anybody. Okay, come on. Go, 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 go. Let's see what's happening. Yep. Oops, sorry. Oops. All right. I shouldn't drive. Someone else should always be driving. Okay, this is one of my favorites. People are always asking me, What's a sales hack to close business? Like as if there's some secret magical thing that people do to close business. There isn't a secret magical thing that people do to close business. There's not. There isn't one. You can read all day long. You can read all the books that give you all the tricks for closing business. It's not true. How do you close business? You're curious. You're compassionate. You're creative. You listen. You care. You follow your process. You do your work. And it will eventually turn into a sale because you will naturally lead the person down the process that enables them to make a buying decision. That's what sales is. It is not manipulation. It is not trickery. It is not pressure. It is none of those things. It's helping our customers make a good decision. And when we facilitate that process, business closes naturally. And you don't have to ask for the close because it's the next logical thing. Okay, if that's what you want and that's when you want it, we need to get a signature. We need to get a contract signed and payment. So let's talk about how we're going to do that. It's a perfectly natural process. There's nothing secret. There's nothing magical. It just is what happens when you do a good job. Oh, I love this one. There's just such a thing as a natural salesperson. He's just a natural salesperson. No, nobody's a natural salesperson. Some people are gregarious and outgoing and love talking to people, and then they learn how to use that to sell. But I know lots of introverted, including myself, people who are very successful salespeople because they've learned a process, they listen, they do all the things they need to do to sell successfully. So if you are not a natural born salesperson, you can still sell. So if you're a founder and you need to sell for your business, fine, go sell. It doesn't matter if you're an introvert. It doesn't matter if it scares you. It doesn't matter if you're not natural at it. You still can go and sell. You don't have to be a natural born salesperson, which really everyone has to learn to sell. So, oh, this is one of my favorites, the used car salesman image. Salespeople are slimy and pushy and arrogant and obnoxious. No. Good salespeople are none of those things. Good salespeople talk to you, help you, solve a problem, work with you, and they help you make a good buying decision. So if you feel like the person you're talking to is slimy and pushy and untrustworthy, don't buy from them. And if your customers think you're slimy and pushy and untrustworthy, they won't buy from you. So that is the biggest myth in the world. Good salespeople are honest, they have integrity, they care about results, they care about outcomes, they care about the people they're selling to. They're not slimy. So don't be afraid of this image of a salesperson. If you don't act like that, people won't think you're like that. Okay. Oh, I love this one too. Men are better salespeople naturally than women. Statistics show it's not true. Good salespeople are curious, creative, compassionate. They listen, they ask good questions, they follow a process. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. Anybody who wants to sell can learn how to sell. So men are not better. Don't be fooled by the idea that you have to have a man as your salesperson or your sales leader. It's just not true. Salespeople are gregarious and arrogant, and we just have to put up with it. No, you don't. You do not have to have arrogant, gregarious, loud, obnoxious salespeople. You just simply do not have to. You can have kind, considerate, thoughtful, caring salespeople, and they will still do a great job. They don't have to hunt and kill. They don't have to be aggressive. They don't have to be any of those things. They have to care about what they're doing, be persistent, follow a process, not be easily beaten down. They just need to keep going. And lots of people can do that. You do not have to have, I see people do it all the time. They think that's what a salesperson is. So they hire salespeople who don't match their values because they think they can't have a salesperson who matches their values. Well, you certainly can. If your values are integrity and respect and customer success and those kinds of things, then hire a salesperson that cares about those things. So don't buy in. It's a myth. Oh, I love this one too. Good salespeople wing it. They just know what to do. They just walk in and know just what to say. No, they don't. Good salespeople prepare for their meetings. They have a series of questions to ask. They've done their research on the person, on the company. They found out if anything changed. They do a ton of work before they walk in and magically know what to do and say. They don't. They have to work at it. So if you're winging it, you're not doing it right. You got to plan your sales call. Good salespeople plan their sales calls. Good people plan their dates. Good people plan their selling work, are good salespeople. So don't wing it. None of it's winging it. That's not part of sales. Of course, when you get thrown a question or a situation that you didn't expect, you're going to have to get creative and think on your feet, but that's not winging it. Okay. And by the way, you'll have fewer surprises if you do your homework before you start. Oh, love this one too. Cold calling is the best way to prospect, or the only way to prospect. Who told you that? Cold calling is expensive. It's cumbersome. It's got a low ratio. It's got a long sales cycle. So we can use it, but we need to recognize the limitations. You can do referral selling. You'll have a much higher close ratio. You can use outbound mail and work around an account-based management or account-based lead generation plan where you're talking to multiple buyers about what they care about. There's all kinds of things you can do. You don't have to cold call if you don't want to. And cold calling isn't the only way to get leads. There's lots of ways to get leads. Some take more time, some take less time. But I always like to start with referrals. It is has much higher close ratio. They spend more money. They stay with you longer. It's always a better fit. Sales and marketing are the same thing. People tell me all the time, oh, I'm selling, I'm on social media. There's no such thing as social selling. That's also a fiction. You can pitch on social media if you want to. You won't get a very good result and people will be resentful. But if you are going to market, you need to do your marketing work. And when you're ready to sell, you need to do your selling work. Unless you have a completely 100% online business where they go through a funnel and they purchase by themselves, sales and marketing are not the same thing. And sales is about the one-to-one engagement with your customers. And that's what you need to do if you're going to be successful. Oh, and this is also one of my favorites. Sales is a solo sport. We just send them out there on their own and they make it happen. And the rest of us don't have to get our hands dirty with sales. The salespeople will do it. Every single person in your organization is part of the sales organization. Every single person plays a role because from marketing through sales, through delivery, and accounting and any customer service, all of those things impact the buying process and the buyer experience and the buyer journey. Therefore, you are all part of the sales process. If the salesperson sells it and the person in the warehouse doesn't get it out on time, guess what? You just undermined the sale. We are all part of the sales process. We all have the opportunity to promote our business, to be kind to our customers, to be thoughtful, to be courteous, to be curious, to be all of the things that make people want to do business with our company. When accounting thinks they can call and scream and yell at the customer because they haven't paid, what accounting is doing is saying, we don't care about sales. We don't care about our customers. What we care about is money. So your accounting team better understand they're part of the sales process and they need to work with the sales team to understand who the customers are and how to get that payment that they need. We are all part of the sales process. So I think that's all I have. I mean, there are a zillion more myths and I am open to asking questions. I'm not really sure how much more time you need me to take up while you guys are deciding who the winners are. Can someone tell me where we stand on time? It looks like I'm right on time.
Yeah, Liz. This is George. Can you hear me?
I can. Are we done with my?
Well, actually, you have just a little bit more time. Could I ask you just a couple of questions? Because you brought up some very interesting concepts.
Okay, I'm going to stop my share. And let's just have a conversation. And anybody who has questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I will be happy to field, but unfortunately with everybody running around here, trying to get the judging done, there might be a little bit of an issue. But Liz, one of the things that you brought up is the difference between sales and marketing. Many times that confuses people because they view their marketing as their sales. Your background includes being a political economist. Could you talk about how your experience as a political economist helped you as you developed your business-to-business sales consulting business?
I can. So many of you may not know what a political economist is. I'm actually an international political economist. And what we do is we look at how human behavior impacts the global sales or the global economy. And what I did when I was working on my dissertation, which is the project I was working on to get my PhD, is I looked at the role of public opinion in international trade negotiations and how we tried to manipulate public opinion and how public opinion responded and how messaging impacted what people were thinking and deciding, and how that back and forth created an outcome or a long-term result and impacted the trade relationship and the overall economic environment in which we function. And so how does that impact what I do? Well, I learned a lot about, for instance, I'm going to just give you a really simple example. When the Japanese were in a drought during the time that I was doing this research, and the Japanese needed to import rice. Well, the Japanese believe with all their heart and soul that Japanese rice is the best rice in the world and no one else can make good rice. And they won't buy California CalRose rice, even though it's grown, it was started by Japanese farmers in the US. They don't want to buy it because they believe. So what they did was when they imported rice, in order to make sure that the Japanese still believed that their rice was the best in the world, to continue that belief, they imported mixed rice, long grain rice, short grain rice, sticky rice, jasmine rice, and they mixed it all together and said, here, cook this up. Guess how it tasted? It was terrible. It was awful. None of the rice was cooked the same amount. It was terrible. You don't cook rice like that. But it helped support their belief system. And that helps us to understand buyers and how buyers respond to what we say and do. Did that answer it?
That is very helpful. Because basically, when we're talking about selling, and you had some great myths, you have to be arrogant. That men are better salesmen than women are. Those myths are absolutely true. If you could share one tip, for example, to the people who pitched today, what would be your best tip of overcoming that fear of making a presentation to a person that is a prospective client?
So here's the easiest thing. This is really, you're going to love this because this makes life so much easier. Stop selling your product. You're not going to believe this when I say it. Nobody cares about your product. They don't care. Here's what they care about. I have a problem. I need it solved. What are my options to solve this problem or to achieve this goal or to overcome this or to reduce this risk or whatever it is that I'm thinking about doing? So this is where I'm starting with me. And if you start with you, we have nothing to talk about. You start with me, the buyer. What am I worried about? What am I thinking about? What do I want to achieve? Then you can start talking about ways to solve that problem and why your solution is the best for this particular person and how it's the best for this particular person. In order to do that, you have to be able to, again, I'm going to keep saying this, be curious, creative, and compassionate. You've got to ask good questions. You've got to hear what they're saying and understand what they're feeling. And you've got to be creative about how you present that information to them so that they go, oh, wow, you can do that for me? That's so cool. Because that's what we want to have.
Excellent, excellent tip. That is truly one of the most important things that anyone who is trying to sell. We were talking when we had the group on funding, and they were talking about relationships with the lenders. With your customer, you have to have a relationship. You need to know the name of their dog. Because if you don't know enough information about the things that they're interested in, how can you actually solve this problem? Maggie, can you help me with any questions from the chat? I know that I'm asking you to do multiple things, be the Zoom master, run the judging panel, and help me out, but I have no device.
That's true, you don't. I don't see any questions in here, but a question that is often asked is, how does one learn to be a good salesperson? What are some of the best books and resources out there?
Okay. Did you hear that?
I
Or do you
did.
need me to repeat that?
I
Very
did.
good.
And there are some great books, old books and new books. And I will tell you, a lot of it depends on, are you selling business to business? Are you selling business to consumer? Are you selling, is it a large enterprise sale where there's lots of people involved? So there's different things that you need to learn in different kinds of selling environments. There's a great new book called Gap Selling by a guy named Keenan. And it's really a simple way to think about selling and understanding the gap between where your customer is, where they want to be, and how you fill it. And that's a great book to start with. I'm going to plug my dad's book. My dad wrote a book a long time ago, 1986, I think, or something like that, called Conceptual Selling. And that book helps you to really think about the kinds of questions to ask, how to ask them, how to have a conversation with a buyer that's about them. It's a great book. The examples are all way out of date, but the concepts are still really good. And I think, oh, there's so many. There's a great book called Fanatical Prospecting that helps you to think about how to go out and find the leads that you want. There are so many great selling books. That's one way to do it. The other is, if you know somebody who's really successful, go ask if you can shadow them. I'll hand you your pen when you need it. I'll take notes. I'll do whatever you want. Let me go with you and see what you do and how you do it. I think that's a really great way to learn. And I think the other is, and I can't say it enough times, be curious. Care about the people that you're selling to, and the way to sell will become natural. What isn't natural is that it's a process that you have to keep following. So there are lots of books that can help you learn that. So are you?
Liz, we do have one more question from the audience here in Elko, and then after we answer this question, we're going to start talking about winners. What's your question, sir?
Hey, I just want to say hi, Liz. And you forgot to plug yourself as a sales coach for teaching salespeople how to be better salespersons.
I'm sorry, I can't flip the screen from here. You have someone who knows you in the room.
Who was
I
that?
can vouch for her. It's Brian Goss.
Brian Wallace.
Hi, Brian.
Yep.
Oh, it's so nice to hear your voice. Yes, I do coach salespeople, and I know lots of people who coach salespeople. And what I really do is coach people around process so that they are learning to follow process as they sell.
Well, thank you very much, Liz, for spending time with us. We appreciate that.
Yes.
At this point in time, we need to thank our sponsors again: Nevada Gold Mines, Northern Nevada Development Authority, NV Energy, Northeastern Nevada Regional Development Authority, Southwest Central Regional Economic Development Authority, Nevada's Small Business Development Center, Battleborn Growth Fund, the Governor's Office of Economic Development, Regarding Sales, Adosity Institute, Carol Hines Consulting, and Startup NV. He's not in the room, but I do need to give a shout out to Alberto Jimenez here at GBC. He changed his schedule around. Even though we've had technology issues, he was willing to change his schedule around to help us have this hybrid event. At this point in time, it's my privilege to introduce.
We don't have the answers for the adults yet.
You don't have the answers for the adults yet. Okay, when I saw people come back on the screen, I was thinking we were ready to go.
I'm happy to answer more questions if that would help.
And as I mentioned, and I thank him, Alberto immediately shows up.
I want to say that. Can you talk about our feedback survey?
Yes, one of the things, thank you very much for bringing up. That is a very important thing. Here in a little while, we're going to give you a code you can scan. We need you to complete the feedback. Just like I, as an instructor, need feedback from my students for ways to improve my classes. Believe it or not, that is how I make changes to my classes. Last year, we had a situation where people in the feedback said, hey, why don't you have a youth section? And when we started gathering this year to start talking about this webinar, Nevada Gold Mine said, we are very interested in that. And that's how that comes about. So your feedback is something we review. If you don't have a smart device, if you can't figure it out, it's not a problem. We will also send you an email.